What's good, everybody? My name is Terry Torrington, and I'm the co-founder of Slay TV. I'm also a screenwriter, producer, and director, overall creative. And I had the opportunity to sit with the creators of For the Boys today, Mekhai and Ellis Dawson. And we had a dope conversation about what it was like to create their first web series, what kind of processes they had with like collaborating and the visuals, the music, of course, and casting. So stay tuned and enjoy. So I'm excited to have you both here to talk about this phenomenal show that's posted up behind me For the Boys. I want to congratulate you both on a phenomenal season one. Congratulations. Like, it's no easy feat putting together a show and actually going from episode one to season finale with a complete thought, a complete story. So I just want to give y'all roses right away and just let you know that the show is just completely amazing. So first of all, how are y'all feeling?
Uh, there's honestly no words. It feels so great. It feels really great that not only did that it's done and we made something that is so near and dear to us, like a labor of love, like you said, definitely a passion project. It's like
Yeah.
to be so well received by the community, especially our community, the
Right.
family. It's I mean, we couldn't have asked for anything better, that is exactly who we made it
Mhm.
for. And so for people to
Right.
really be like, yo, this shit is dope. Like it's just amazing. So amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, it's really overwhelming, really. It's an idea that we had, in my little East Flatbush apartment, and it's grown into this thing that lives in so many people's homes, like not just in the US, but like internationally. People are
Right,
like,
right.
oh, from South Africa and,
Mhm.
the UK and all this stuff. And that's like, wow, that's crazy. In Jamaica and all these other places. It's
Right.
really amazing.
That is
Yeah.
phenomenal. That fan love, that support that you guys have been getting, like, through Slate TV, I'm seeing so many,
Mhm.
Mhm.
so many comments coming in, and it's just like, I know you guys are feeling all that love. So we can start with the intro. You guys could let me know who you are and what's your background.
Ooh.
Okay, cool. So I'm Mekhai Lee. And yeah, so like essentially I have a background in theater and I graduated from college a couple years ago and went straight into the New York theater scene. I've toured, I've done off Broadway and I've been was working pretty much consistently up until the pandemic happened. And when I met Ellis in 2019, what was that, Ellis? Like 2019? Um, we went to go see this like Shakespeare play, and
Mhm.
we just kind of shared ideas. We had a lot in common. Like we were immediately like hitting it off, very much
Right.
the connection right away, and we just stayed in touch. And then I remember Ellis came at me about 5 or 6 months after we had met. Like it was February of 2020, right before the pandemic happened. We were doing this
Right.
photo shoot, which is actually the photo shoot that ended up being our main poster with the pink one with the roses. We're doing this
Mhm.
photo shoot, and he was just like, "Hey, like I've been writing this idea," and I had told him about an idea about three queer black friends when we first met. Like I was like, I just wrote this pilot. Like I was ready to write it for like, let's pitch it to like now. Let's get it there.
Yeah.
And I asked Ellis to shoot it because I didn't know he was a writer himself, and he was like, "No, I don't know about that." And then like 5 6 months later, here we are. He's telling me about this idea, and he was asking me like, like were there any roles I was thinking? And I was like, actually, I would be more interested in doing it with you, creating it with you, like
Mm.
writing and everything. So long story short, took our two scripts, which had a lot of similarities and a lot of fun differences, and we just kind of threw them together to make a pilot for the web series. And then we
Right.
just went from there. We sat up late. I mean, like countless nights in February, just like putting together the season, how we thought the characters should act, and like what
Right.
should be, character depth and analysis and season plot line. And then fast forward about what is it, 2 years now, and here we are at
Mm.
the end of the first season. Like that's crazy to think about, but yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
that's the story. Yeah, and I'm Ellis. That's who he was talking about.
Uh-huh.
I also have a theater and a background in theater. I went to school for musical theater, and I've always been interested in storytelling. I've toured. I've been on two Broadway tours now. I'm currently on tour, literally right now. sitting backstage.
You work and you booked.
Right. And I also am a photographer and always had an interest in writing. Just didn't think that I was capable of it because I don't know, it's like I felt like I was casting my net too wide. I was like, I'm doing too many things. And didn't think that it was possible or that anyone would be able to would want to pay attention to my stories. And then I met Mekhai and we switched scripts and he was like, no, there's something there for sure. And that's how it kind of came to be. Yeah.
I love that. And I love the fact that you guys came together to collaborate on this story, which was going to be one of my questions. Like, how did that come to be? But then you answered that. So like, what has the collaboration process been like, aside from sharing those scripts and talking about characters and everything like that? Because I want to get into just how the overall image of this thing happened. Like, did you know the characters, like who was going to play these characters? And like visually, you know, so many people are talking about how visually stunning the show is. So it's like,
Wow.
How intentional was that as well?
There was this moment where one of the characters was walking in red heels and then would like read this coworker because of her microaggressions. That was probably like the third or fourth scene. And then Mekhai was like, that scene needs to go first. And we took one of the scripts and just kind of like switched it around. But the collaboration process was like, it's funny because neither one of us have formal training in like writing and being in a writer's room, but I've been doing a lot of research on writers' rooms and we naturally kind of did that. We started very basically with themes. What are the things we want to talk about? We want to talk about Blackness. We want to talk about queerness. We want to talk about the intersectionality. We want to talk about religion. We want to talk about this and that and that and that.
Right.
So once we had that, we were like, so how can we take these themes and make a story out of these characters? You know, we have these, we're currently working on some stuff and we were thinking about the characters and we were like, well, we have Jamal, who is the hopeless romantic, whose romance is hopeless, which we think is really funny. We have, you know, the Anthony, the most unreasonable voice of reason. And then we have Saeed, you know, the pretty boy whose demons aren't so pretty. So it's like, how can we take those three characters with those very specific points of views and make a story out of that? And that's how it all started. And then from there, we just kind of like split up the scripts. At the first 4 episodes that we released first, Mekhai wrote episode 3 by himself. But outside of that, we would switch off who wrote what scenes. And we even did that with the way we directed, you know, like I would direct one scene, Mekhai would direct another. But yeah, you want to speak on that a little bit more, Mekhai?
Yeah, even though, you know, there was an episode that was written, like, I would say it was written by me, but like, it still felt like pretty squarely down the middle, you know what I mean? Especially those first 4, it was our first film endeavor with anything, you know, like, we are pretty new to writing, like, by ourselves, you know, it's the first thing that both of us have written by ourselves, but, you know, Ellis and I have been in art school since we were like 14 years old, you know, like, we're absolutely like theater nerds. We geek out over August Wilson and Lynn Nottage and Dominique Morisseau and Stephen Sondheim.
We met because of a Shakespeare show, an all-black Shakespeare show. That's how we met.
Right.
Like, immediately, like, you know, we're already drawn to just like the vast storytelling you can do in the medium of theater. And then, you know, with a lot of time that the pandemic offered us and, you know, just the accessibility of something like YouTube and web series, we knew that there was a show for the culture just begging to be there. Like, there was this huge hole. So we felt like we could take our theater experience and apply that to, you know, episodic television, so to speak. Yeah, and like in writing that, I mean, like, even in choosing the characters, like, you know, Ellis said we were thinking about themes and everything like that, and like, these are themes we should touch on with these characters. For example, you know, Saeed has this body dysmorphia, and Saeed being so conventionally pretty, you wouldn't expect that out of that character. So we knew it would be really, really like great surprise for the audience if they're like, oh, I got this guy figured out, like, I know who he is, and then come to find out you really don't, you know, like, we all have the mask we show the world, and then the mask, you know, the real person, real only with ourselves. Speaking of, Saeed was the only character that was cast from the beginning. Saeed's played by Lamont Walker II, and he and Ellis have been friends since I mean, gosh, Ellis, like, how long? Like,
since we were 13. Yeah, since we're 13.
Wow, y'all go way back.
Yeah, they go
We
way
go way, way back.
way back. And so like actually like in inception and or conception rather, and like writing and everything, Lamont and Ellis lived together, so he was there for a lot of like the initial ideas of the episodes. We'd run ideas past him. He definitely proofread things in the beginning when I was very scared to like show people the scripts as babies, you know what I mean? Like Ellis would be the one to push me out the house and be like, look, like let me
Yeah.
read it and stuff like that. um and Anthony and Jamal, we kind of asked our friends to audition for. We asked like maybe like 8 to 10 people,
Mhm.
maybe split down 5 and 5 for each role. And Jamal was, we had somebody else do it in this like read through we did. But I remember when I'm thinking like, oh, it's gonna be this guy. Like he's amazing. Like he was so funny.
Yeah.
We read it over Zoom. He was great. And then Ellis is like, oh, this guy Drew just sent in a tape, like a friend of his that he had known for some time. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I mean, like we could watch it, but like it's whatever. Like and I remember he did this monologue, and there's this like this lovable, awkward charm about Drew that is just
Mm,
so natural. And the other guy is
yeah.
so talented, but Drew brought something that wasn't present in the other boys and really wasn't even present to begin with in the character. And I think it
Mhm.
really rounded out the three so perfectly. So immediately I watched his, or rather, it took me 2 times to really like set my heart. Like I was just like,
Right.
Ellis is completely right. Like Drew deserves this, you know.
And
And
what's funny is the opposite happened with Anthony. Is there was
yeah,
another boy in the reading that I was like, this is gonna be Anthony. This is
mm-hmm.
gonna be
Mhm.
Anthony. I was like, we can. He was very young and had a lot of great ideas. And I was like, we can craft that. We can, like, it's there. We can craft it down. We can make it make sense in this world.
Right.
And Mekhai saw someone from his college
Mm-hmm.
that was like hosting an online, like, live
Yeah,
Instagram cabaret
you know
or
how
Yeah.
something.
everything went virtual during the pandemic. Like
Right.
that's what he was doing. He was hosting like this like cabaret thing.
So yeah, Mekhai sent me the link and was like, "What do you think about having this guy read for Anthony?" I was like, "Okay, that's fine. I kind of think I know who Anthony's going to be, but yeah, let's do it." And
Mhm.
he sent in a tape, and Mekhai purposely waited last. Like, we had watched everybody's everything, and purposely
Mhm.
waited last to put on the tape. And it didn't take much convincing once he put the tape on.
Right.
As soon as I saw, I didn't have to watch it twice. I was just like, "Yeah, yeah,
Yep,
that's
that's
it.
him.
That's who it is. That's exactly who it is." Yeah.
But funnily enough, like the guy who played Anthony in the read through charmed both of
Mhm.
us so much that Ellis and I are big on community and we're big on keeping it in the family. So
Right.
he ended up coming back to the show in a really large way. He plays a character later. He
Mhm.
comes. What's Charles's first episode? He comes like,
I think it's the party.
oh, you so right. You so right. So he ended up playing like,
Charles.
yeah,
Yeah.
plays Charles.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
So he,
okay,
he
okay.
was gonna play
Yes, we
Yeah.
Nick.
love him. We
Yeah.
love Charles. Yeah. One thing I really like about the show is that your main characters, or overall every character in the show, these feel like real people. Like at
Mm,
this point, and I'm sure the audience can agree, you're watching the show and it's not even like you're watching a show anymore. It almost feels like you're eavesdropping into someone's situation. The way
mm,
they interact with each other, the chemistry, it just all flows so well. And that married with the cinematography and then the music, we're going to talk about the music because we know the music is a big deal. But
mm-hmm.
all of those elements coming together with your writing, it just made a masterpiece. So it's interesting to hear that this was their first writing project. And so y'all knocked this one right out the park. Y'all hit the three most important pillars of storytelling,
Mm.
which to me are authenticity, relatability, and quality. And so I guess when you were talking about those themes, did you think about how it would impact people ahead of time? Like, did you want to just spark conversation or is just something that naturally came up? Like, how did that work out in terms of like fleshing out and mapping out the first season?
Um, I think we definitely. Solange says on "Seat at the Table," or rather, her mom says, "Do nothing without intention." So
Absolutely.
everything
Yeah.
that, and of course, like as you said, the music is such a big thing. Music is a huge thing for Ellis. We share songs and music with each other all the time, and I think when we were coming up with the themes that we definitely wanted to tackle, it was all intentional.
Yeah.
It was like we were deciding in what way we could show it that didn't seem preachy or too on the nose, or that felt authentic and relatable.
Right.
But at its core, we like to say that this show is a love letter to the boys who have not seen themselves represented in media. You know, literally called For the Boys. It's for us. You know, and even though we're
Right.
boys, like we love when people like this white lady on Twitter, she said, "I'm 73 years old. I don't even know if I'm able to comment on this, but For the Boys is so good." And I was just
I
like,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was amazing. You know, I like to say we like to be desired by one man, but we don't mind being desired by all. So
Oh, that's right.
uh, yeah, so like everything was so intentional from the beginning. Like, you know, we really thought deeply about the things that we wanted to change to represent, and then things changed as time went on. And
Yeah.
you know, Ellis and I grew, and we learned our actors more, and we learned the characters more. And you know, we shot the first four, so we saw what was like we were able to kind of do with our budget and our means and resources.
Yeah.
So we absolutely stay true to the authenticity of the show and you know the core of it, but you know the things that changed were like technical things around it, but
Yeah.
definitely intentional with what we wanted to show and represent.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think what Mekhai said is like one of my notes that I always have for myself is like I don't want anything to ever sound like an after school special,
Yeah.
which I feel like this material in the wrong hands with the wrong writers with the wrong actors would very much be that. And
Yep.
I feel like we found a really good balance of tackling subjects that spark conversation in an interesting enough perspective where it feels like, oh, that's just the way it happened. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's I think my favorite part about our show is like we do talk like the subjects vary from episode to episode, from scene to scene, and there's a lot packed into what feels like a very slice of life show.
Right.
But there's so many themes packed into it, and it's all of them are very intentional. And I think like I feel like we didn't write our first version of a script for a while. Like our first few meetings was just like a lot of talking and like fleshing out characters until
Right.
we felt like, okay, we have enough to write a script. And even then, like that script, there's so many moments like Jamal had this monologue at the end that in one context worked in our first script, and then we were like, we want to keep the monologue exactly the same, so we took that monologue and put it into our new pilot. And I remember we heard it aloud for the second time with a new group of actors, the actors that we cast. And I don't even know if Mekhai knows this, I literally took my earphones out and like turned my computer down because it was just so like it was too on the nose and too preachy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't hear this anymore. It was
What I
so
love
cringy.
specifically with that part, what I love that changed is at first it was a monologue about how hard it is to be gay and black and like to navigate that intersectionality and how they make it work. Basically the three of them make it work, and he's absolutely right. Listening to it out loud was very much like we go through this and we go through this and we go through this, and it was just so like in your face about it.
Yeah.
I love that because Ellis changed the direction of that monologue, and it's essentially the same idea about how challenging shit can be for us. Can I curse?
Yes, absolutely. I love profanity.
Okay, okay, good. So how challenging shit can be, but what I love that changed is that Jamal uses this toast. It's the toast he does at the end of the pilot to relate to his friends. So everything he's talking about is going through the people who he loves most in his life. The closest people to him, his community, his tribe, and then he relates it back to how tough. And he says it in one line: 2020 has been crazy, and that's really all you need to hear because we all know what that means. I mean, everybody
Right.
on this fucking planet knows what 2020 did to us, and
Right.
just that coupled with Anthony dealing with Amber at work and Saeed getting fired from his job, like
Right.
how he relates it back to this group right here, these moments right here are who I live for and what I live for and how I'm able to continue living, made it, I mean, all worth the while. So
Yeah,
the best way.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the pilot. There was something that came up earlier and I didn't want to interrupt, but who is responsible for that opening scene when first with the shoes? Let's talk about the shoes because that moment was really amazing to me because as you talk about not making things be so on the nose or whatever. It's like you guys did a lot of show but don't, excuse me, yeah, show but don't tell. And so that moment where Anthony is in the stairwell and he's like got the shoes in the bag and should I not, it already created some tension for me right off the bat. And it was just like I was already invested. It's like, put on the shoes, you know what I mean? And then to go in the office and then own the space and let Amber have it. First, who's responsible for that? And secondly, like, why did you decide to put that scene first? I know why, but like, why did you decide to put that scene first?
So that was in my original pilot, but it was later. I wanted to introduce all three of the characters at once. So that original scene was like a split, and you were seeing the three of them going throughout their day. It was like kind of melodramatic. There was like a moment where they all looked in the mirror. It's a lot. And then the other two sides would go away, and then what would be left was Anthony walking to work, and the rest of that kind of stayed the same. And I don't even think the color of the heels were red. I just said he's just wearing heels. And there was the Nina Simone thing didn't happen until later. So then Mekhai read that and was like, your script is cool, but this part about him and the heels, that has to go first. And I kind of fought him on it. And I was like, but it's about these three boys, and I don't want people to think that Anthony's the lead. He's like, no, we're going to do it in a way where people will, know that that's not what it is. And originally the read, all of that happened in a elevator, and it was two white girls, and they were really mean. They weren't trying to be nice. They were very mean. And then he said it, and then I don't even remember what happened, but then we ended up changing it to the read that happens now. But the Nina Simone part of it didn't come until later. We were filming. We were filming, and and I came to, I don't know why I was watching that interview, and I came to Mekhai's house and I was like, this is about to sound crazy, but instead of opening with music, why don't we open with this quote about, no fear? And I was like, even though she's talking about a different type of fear, like a different thing, I think it will really resonate in this way. And I was like, I'm normally like, you're going to hate it. I always come to him with like, you're probably going to hate this. And I'm going to say like 8.5 times out of 10, he's like, what are you talking about? That's great.
Yeah.
Right. And he was like, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah. And it just kind of like, but what was amazing is again, the collaboration is, although, the spark of it came from me, Mekhai directed that. So even though, like that part came from me, Mekhai directed it. So it was truly his vision of how he wanted to see it all play out. But yeah, it was really, and I remember you were saying, Mekhai was saying that his best friend Phil, who is straight, was like, I never seen a pilot with a nigga in heels. He was like, I've never seen it before. He's like, I've never seen anything like that before, and it's so strong. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, that's what made me want to start the pilot with it, because when Philip said that he had never seen a guy in heels in a pilot, you know what I mean? I knew immediately that image would make people be like, what the hell is this? They would stop what they were doing and pay attention. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, Chandler's a damn star. So it's like whenever he's like, you could see all the emotion in his face, and hearing Nina Simone and seeing these like bright red heels, which, Ellis is right. Like I definitely specified when he said the image to me back in February of 2020, I immediately pictured red heels,
Yeah.
And, as he said, we changed a lot, and he went inside, he does this read. And, what I really did with the directing and like the transferring of the scripts was just like these details of it, So again, back to that collaboration of it is that the spark of the idea came from Ellis. And then once it's like we funnel it through the two of our minds, you know what I mean? Like there was a time where I had to like, basically to put it on this like screenplay thing, I would have to transfer over the writing and stuff like that. And in that, a lot of the times, like the writing would become streamlined, or there would be a detail, or I'd be like, it would be funny if he said this flat thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or, there are certain things he says in the read that Ellis will tell you, like, because I'll be reading bitches when it's just me and him.
Right.
A lot of the language.
It's a good way to get it out in a healthy way. Do another
yes,
character.
And it was very, very healthy. It was very therapeutic to just be like, what you're not about to do is come for me in a flat.
Right.
Let me not. But yeah, so like a lot of it is the collaboration of, I like the idea, or at least that's how I picture it, is that it kind of funnels through the two of us, you know.
Yeah.
Either of us have an idea, we bring it to each other, and then once we're like transferring it to the page or start to direct it or something like that, both of us are adding things to it and subtracting things from it, and you know, we're a good kind of buffer for each other, so we're not just doing
Right.
kind of, you know, crazy or unfiltered, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and an
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting thing about that scene also was like, and also in the one of the versions of the script, the read was always a fantasy, and then it would snap back to reality, and
Mhm.
that was it. It was supposed to go read, and then she was going to go Anthony, Anthony, and then it would go back, and then I was like, but this is those first few minutes with the Nina Simone quote is so heavy and so intense. I was like,
Mhm.
we have to figure out a way to make the audience know, but we're also about to really laugh.
Yeah.
So then
Right.
we were like,
Right.
how can we do that really, really quickly? Although the read is funny on its own, how can we be like, the comedy is about to be really wild. It can be subtle, but it can
Right.
also be really wild.
Yes. All
And
right.
then we came up with this idea to like have the office who's all black just go wild,
Right.
just go the way that
Right.
only black people do when we laugh, like
Mhm.
you know, that joy, and it's
That really
contagious.
elevated the scene so much for me. It was just like, yes, everybody's in unison now. Like, because
Mhm.
I feel like, you know, even watching it from home, we were probably joining in with them, just
Mhm.
cackling at it because it was just like, how many of us wanted to do that in real life as well? What was it like finding your director of photography and having, I guess, like, how did that process work in terms of like, did you know how you wanted the show to look? Did it exceed your expectations? And like, what was the directing process?
So our DP is our director of photography is a friend of Ellis's that they did tour together. He's actually a multi hyphenate artist as well.
Mm.
He's on Broadway right now, actually. So,
Okay.
yeah. Um, yeah. So Pierre actually shoots these dance videos, and he kind of
Mm.
maneuvers around the dancers in a really great way. You should check out his stuff, Pierre
Yeah.
Murray videography. Um, Ellis sent me his stuff on Instagram, and you know, we had been like talking about who could possibly shoot it. We knew right away that we wanted it to look as close to TV as possible. Like
Right.
it should seem like it could be on HBO or FX or, you know, Hulu, whatever they have you right this second. You know, we didn't want it to
Yeah.
feel it was shot. Even though we needed to do it for very cheaply, we didn't want it to look.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, and Pierre's camera quality is great, even on his dance videos. You
Hmm.
know, so immediately I saw the quality of it and was like, yeah, per, I'm down with that. And then him coming in, it's funny we talk about collaboration with it because you know there are definitely ways we've seen things in our head, and the first 4 episodes were really a learning curve, especially because I would see it in my head this way, you know what I mean, and I would communicate that to Pierre, and he would tell me realistically what we're able to achieve, you know what I
Hmm.
mean, and then of
Hmm.
course Pierre's own style of filmmaking starts to influence how we shoot scenes as well. I might
Mm.
you know, I might have seen something being a little just shot a little differently. And then Pierre
Yeah.
just like his camera movement is almost balletic, you know what I mean? Like he's like dancing around the characters, like it's
Yeah.
curves and stuff like that, which wasn't something I initially was like, I love very cinematic, like, you know, big shots, like very like beautiful things to look at, you know? And
Right.
it still is beautiful to look at, but there's always this constant motion, you know, which adds to the beat of the show and the musicality of the show that is completely from Pierre. And I remember one time, actually, the heel scene in particular was one of the last scenes we shot first go around. And I remember looking at Ellis and being like, you know, the Pierre's way of shooting has become the style of the show now. Like
Mm.
it's not how I pictured it, but it did kind of exceed my expectations in that regard. And so that
Yeah.
when we came back to do this next 6, I was starting to be like, oh, like it should move this way. Like I had changed my language around how I wanted to say
Yeah.
stuff because I remember watching it and enjoying how it swerved. So I'd be like, this scene
Yeah.
needs to go like this, and then around them, and Anthony is singing, and Saeed comes out the door, and it's just like, you know what I mean? Like it should definitely move like that. So
He's he's incredible at what he does.
yeah,
He jokes that, you know, Mekhai and I have very ambitious shots for not a lot of like
As you should.
budget.
As you should.
We're very ambitious about. I remember. Oh yeah, we are very ambitious. Like episode 6. I think I
Oh
ended up
my
having
God.
like it was my episode, it was my like solo directorial debut. And I think like that day was like over like 150 different shots that I wanted
Ooh.
Whoa.
from like all these different, and like it was like the coverage of one scene, the game night scene there, I had like on each person like 5 or 6 coverages for like a moment that I just needed. And it was very ambitious, but it paid off. It really paid off.
Right.
It really did. Mind you, Ellis is saying this, and he wasn't there that day too.
I
Ellis is
was
on
not.
tour right now, so he was rehearsing while we were shooting a little bit of the second part of the season, and he wrote out all these shots and he gave them to our production coordinator Mark, and he gave them to me, and he gave them to Pierre. So we're like referencing this list. That day was just hard, period. But like when we did officially start shooting, around 2, 3 in the afternoon. We did not wrap until 4 in the morning, and we had been there since about 11 or 12. Like, it was a tough day, but we got it.
Yeah.
Yes, we are very ambitious, you know. So,
Right.
you know, that's just exciting for
Hey,
how ambitious.
it's production.
Yeah,
That's how it works.
Yeah.
The music. Let's talk about the music. With this show being, independent, and as creators, we got to work around certain things, copyright and blah, 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 all that type of shit. You guys have put together such a beautiful playlist of music that works with the cinematography, that works with the situations, and work with just the writing overall. So what was that process like? I know you said that you guys share music with each other. And so did you guys sit down with each scene and say, what, this song should go here? Like, how did that whole process work?
What's funny enough is when we wrote the original scripts, we put crazy songs like Tiana Taylor and like SZA and Ari Lennox in the placeholders, but we're like, we know it should sound like, or it should be like, or whatever. But yeah, we would just come together and try to find the perfect moment. I honestly really think why it resonated so well is the thing that I was joked about a lot as a kid, is like my love of musical theater, and Mekhai's love of musical theater is that we really intimately understand where a song is supposed to go in a story, and how it says what the character can't say. How it's truly the character's emotional life that's happening underneath the surface. So we, with that, coupled with the fact that a lot of our musical theater friends don't just do musical theater, they write their own music, just like we write our own stories. They write their own music. And we just have a lot of really talented friends that had music that.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
That had music that if we listened to it hard enough, we could figure out a way to make it make sense in the story. And it really just resonated with people. I mean, obviously I think the music is really amazing, but I think that it being coupled with the perfect moment, specifically one of my favorites is in episode 2, 1221, that happens when Saeed's in the mirror and he's looking at himself, and we reveal he has body dysmorphia, but we had a rap party, and Yana, who plays V, sang that song, and I remember getting choked up and looking.
Wrote that song, by the way.
Yeah, she sang and wrote it.
Wow.
And she sang it at the event, and I remember looking around, and everybody, like the 250 plus people that were in that room, all knew that song because of that moment. And we were all thinking the same thing and all seeing the same picture, and it was just like, oh yeah, we're really onto something with this music.
We were so scared about the TLC moment just because obviously by TLC, but like it just makes that moment work so well.
Absolutely.
Them dressed as them, and it's a 90s party. It's just so much, but we get around the curve because there's like Ashton, who plays Raymond, also makes beats. So if I'm like, I really want a beat that sounds like Body here, or I really want a beat that sounds like Genuine's Pony, he'll go in the lab and make that, and then he'll change like pitches and keys, and he'll move something down or up, like up the octave, so that when it comes back to us, what we hear is Pony, but it's not, it's not Genuine's beat, and it's not Megan Thee Stallion's beat. You know what I mean? It's something different. So that helps for transition stuff as well.
That is awesome. Y'all have a whole team of just like multi-talented superstars, like in the making, or shit, not even in the making. Y'all are already doing it. No problem. You just dropped the season finale, and It took us on a ride. It was a roller coaster. When you took that break in between episode 4 and the mid-season, did you guys already have the finale in mind? Or written at least?
I think we had up to episode 9 written with an idea of what 10 was going to be, but even 5, 6, 7, 8 changed so much. It changed so much.
Right.
And yeah, I remember when we had a couple ideas for what the finale. We knew that Devin and Jamal had to split. We knew that that had to happen. We knew that Saeed and Jamal were going to fight. And we knew that Anthony was going to have a little like happy ever after. So we think until we see what happens next. But we didn't know exactly how. And I remember we had ideas for how Jamal and Devin were going to split. And we had one that both of us thought were really strong, but for our own reasons decided to not use. And then one day, one of us was just like, Jamal is an artist. And what if Devin says something? What if he overhears Devin say something that isn't necessarily racist, but because he is who he is, it is a little bit racist.
Very racially motivated.
It's racially motivated. And how can we do it in a way where Devin isn't necessarily just a villain and he feels convicted in what he said? He's like, I didn't say anything wrong. I'm just giving my opinion. I'm trying to protect you. How can we make it where it seems like, it was just bad timing and words that shouldn't have been said in that moment. We didn't want to villainize Devin, but we also wanted to make it something that was, that would give Jamal a reason to be like, I'm done. So we had ideas, but we stumbled upon it later, like much later than we thought we were going to.
You didn't want to villainize Devin, but I'm telling you right now, there's a couple people that want to throw hands on him when they see him in the street. So
he's gonna hurt Nate. He's amazing. Nate is amazing. We love him.
And to be fair, when we were filming it, because I flew in, I was on tour, but I flew in that day because it was the same day as our rap party. And like the first few takes, Nate was like messing up the word, which is very unlike Nate. He was like messing up the words and couldn't remember. And I pulled him aside. I was like, what's going on? He was like, I don't want people to hate me. He was like, I just don't want people to hate me because I don't feel this way. And it just feels so icky. And I was like, but it's a character. It's a character.
Right. And that's just a testament to his acting ability. He did a great job.
He's incredible.
Yeah. And he and Drew rehearse all the time. So they would come so prepared. Like, they're incredible together. Their chemistry, their work ethic. It's just, I couldn't ask for better actors on screen. They're really, 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 really awesome.
Now that the season 1 is complete, is there anything that you wish that you could have done differently? Like one thing that you wish you could have done differently?
There's a couple things I wish I could have done differently. It's plot things that I don't want to say because I think, I enjoy the plot as is, but in a world where I can see those plot things realized, I want to make sure that they are real. You know what I mean? Especially the people who aren't in writing with us and everything like that. But yes, there are things I would certainly change. Definitely the way I shot certain things, or maybe like the progression of arcs or something like that. I would take more time with certain moments and things like that. But that's me being a self-analyzer,
being a creative.
Exactly. I'm just in my head about it, and I appreciate that. Even moments that I'm like, I have major anxiety over, we love to say Erykah Badu's, I'm an artist, so I'm sensitive about my shit, so I would be releasing episodes being like, oh my God, I hope they don't hate this moment. And then, I mean, it always ends up being the moment that people love the most, you know what I mean? Or people are like, that is hilarious, like tweeting it, commenting it, or, I love when they post the timestamp of when the line happened. So I got to click and see if they find so funny. And then I'm like, that is funny. Like the grinder moment with Charles when he's like,
oh, that was hilarious.
Yeah, and I was nervous about it. I was like, I hope this reads like, I hope it's not like too too light or too silly after such a heavy moment. You know what I mean? So I was like, I hope this money to them, and then niggas was really fucking with that one. And I was just
Yeah.
like, because it's true, like like we all need our fakes, you know what I mean? So
Okay.
we get it.
Yeah, I definitely think for me, I mean a lot of things as well. But personally things that I would have changed is like some of the things I wrote in the earlier episodes, I think I'm much better writer than I was, 2 years ago when we were writing it the first time, and I'm a much better director than I was. So I wish I could go back and really just craft those moments more with the actors that are more than capable of doing whatever we throw at them. They're so incredible and so adaptable. So yeah, those are things that but again, it's about being a creator. It's the work is never done.
Yeah. Trust me, I know exactly how it is. So for my final question, what's next for the boys?
Ooh.
Without, you don't gotta, give me the exclusive, but you know what I mean? Like, what's next for the boys? Like, what's your plans?
The boys are gonna grow.
Yes.
We're gonna see the boys grow in a lot of ways. I think we have been, right now we're in this period where we're really just looking at season one, and we're just kind of analyzing it to help us in the future. And we really realize that this is a story about, or a show, and what makes it so universal is it's about people unlearning the traumas in their youth, their childhood, their adolescence. And I think that we're going to see them shed more of those layers as they grow and really become who they're supposed to be. I believe that like when you're first born, you're exactly who you're supposed to be. But then what happens is like your parents and life and society puts all these things on top of you. And then like in your 20s, late to mid 20s is when you start to be like, let me peel this back and try to become who I am. So you're going to see a lot of uncomfortable growth that hopefully lead to like moments that inspire real growth in real life, and also really hilarious moments. You're going to see some...
I love it. Listen, I want to thank you both for taking the time to speak with me about this phenomenal show. From creator to creator, you guys have inspired me. You have entertained me. I just had to come to speak with y'all because I'm like, I want to know what's going on in y'all heads and like what's the process and everything.
Thank you.
And so thank you. And I wish you guys nothing but success and continued growth and just overall abundance from this project and whatever else you got going on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.